I think from the point of view of publicity, it was the most famous case we ever had. Then we had two great protagonists in the case. Mr. William Jennings Bryan, who had been candidate for president of the United States and a very well-known fundamentalist orator, who volunteered to the prosecution to put this teacher in jail. And then we had Mr. Clarence Darrow of Chicago, a real tribune of the people, an extraordinarily able lawyer and a philosopher of science, opposed to this biblical interpretation. And they battled it all out in the Tennessee court.
Can't you understand that if you take a law like evolution and you make it a crime to teach it in the public schools, tomorrow you can make it a crime to teach it in the private schools, and tomorrow you may make it a crime to read about it, and soon you may ban books and newspapers. And then you may turn Catholic against Protestant, and Protestant against Protestant, and try to foist your own religion upon the mind of man. If you can do one, you can do the other, because fanaticism and ignorance is forever busy and needs feeding.
We had to put people on the firing line and let them get arrested and go to court just in order to prove that the Bill of Rights meant what it says, that there should be no interference with freedom of speech.
One of the continuing themes in the ACLU's work in these early years was the problem of vindication of labor's right to organize.
It was a major issue, and very few people today can appreciate the bitterness and the extent of this struggle between the employers and the employees all over the United States. How many people died in that struggle and how many people were jailed in that struggle. The immense picket lines and the amount of strike breaking. We were effective because of our principles, not because of our size. Because we weren't very influential from the point of view of numbers of pressure, but we were quite influential when we went to court with a lawyer and insisted that the Bill of Rights should be enforced, and the courts paid attention. The trade union movement had a bat until the Supreme Court upheld the National Labor Relations Act. It ended practically all violent labor strife, and was the first time that the public authorities had enforced the Bill of Rights in the industrial field.
Tell us about the Patterson strike.
That was not a strike in which we had so much violence, but we had police oppression. At a point in the strike, the police just closed all strike halls and said, no more meetings. And I went over to Patterson from New York because the strike leaders asked me to come and said, what are you going to do about opening up these halls? And I said, well, we'll have a public meeting on the City Hall steps, and we'll get a nice lot of American flags, and we'll have a parade down at the City Hall. We'll show that this is the Bill of Rights that we're defending. Well, we went, thousands of us. And as soon as we got to the City Hall and started making speeches in favor of the Bill of Rights, the police cracked our heads and broke us up. And they arrested me. And I had a case in the Jersey courts, and I finally got acquitted by unanimous opinion of the Supreme Court of Jersey that I was doing the right thing defending the Bill of Rights on the City Hall steps.
The ultimate test of devotion to freedom is expressed by Oliver Wendell Holmes, Jr., who said, the test is whether you will accord freedom of expression to the idea you hate.
What possible reason is there for giving civil liberties to people who will use those civil liberties in order to destroy the civil liberties of all the rest?
That's a classic argument, you know. That's what they said about the Nazis and the communists, that if they got into power, they'd suppress all the rest of us.
Isn't that true?
So we suppress them first. And that's all. We're going to use their method before they can use it. Well, it's contrary to our experience that in a democratic society, if you let them all talk, even those who would deny civil liberties and would overthrow the government, that's the best way to prevent them from doing it.
How did you work with the Klan?
Way back when we first started,